We welcome all of you and would like to call this meeting of the Board of Water Resources to order. Carrie Rathje, I think you had a...
I just, on behalf of the Washington County Water Conservancy District, wanted to welcome all of you to Washington County, and more importantly, to express our gratitude for the work the board does on our behalf. We share your mission to conserve and plan and develop water, and we are so grateful for the partnership that we enjoy with you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have several other guests here with us today. We have Justin Atkinson with Sunrise Engineering. Justin?
He's out in the hall.
Out in the hall. He's not here today. David Clark. Welcome. Paul Blanchard. Paul, welcome. Stephanie McGinnis. Stephanie. She's Water and Tax Advocate, Utah Rivers Council. Okay, Brian Dixon. I think you're going to address us later. Tom will, okay. Tom Gutine?
Yep, hi.
Is that the right pronunciation?
You got it right, it's rare.
Got to be a Southern Utah issue. Anyway, thank you for being here, and we'll give some time at the end of the meeting to address us, okay?
Yep.
A few minutes. William Markley, Uinta Water District, welcome. You're in our last meeting. Got Mike Collins, Bowen Collins, engineer. Welcome. Janelle Cook, Senior Vice President HDR. Welcome. Is that it? We're going to move to our agenda then, and first of all, we have approval of the minutes of January 31st. Board, any?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion we approve those minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the minutes of January the 31st be approved, I believe as corrected. So we made a couple of little adjustments. So. Any questions on that motion, board? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Troy, you're up again. You were up this morning, now you're up again. Put a smile on your face.
Do we get the Easter Bunny this time?
I took the Easter Bunny out. It's not as fun without Brian here. So yeah, I took out some of the more entertaining slides and kept it down to the core of the talk being focused on data and how the snowtail sites are doing and how the snowpack is. So, as you all know, it's been a fantastic, very good year. Not a huge year, but man, it was well above what we experienced last year, and so we're all pretty happy with how it's turned out. So we're gonna look at 2019. And I did keep these next few slides. So before we talk about 2019, I add some slides here that discussing the El Nino, La Nina effect and how that affects the snowpack here in Utah. So in a La Nina year, generally that implies that you get a wet north and a dry south. With an El Nino, you get a wet south and a dry north. And so we all know that, and every October, news people get on and talk about the strength of El Nino or La Nina and what that implies for the coming snow year. So I wanted to look at how those those indexes of La Nina El Nino effects here at the snowpack here in Utah, and based on previous years. And so this graph here is from the NOAA website, and it is the strength of La Ninas, El Ninos from about 1951 forward. And so it's a sinusoidal. You get a La Nina event is usually followed by an El Nino event, and sometimes you'll get 2 El Ninos in a row or 2 La Ninas in a row. Just depends on what's going on in the Pacific Ocean, where that water warming or cooling events is taking place. And there are a number of years where there's actually no strong signature whatsoever. It's neither a La Nina or El Nino. So we found that there are 3 years where there's a strong El Nino, and about 7 events where there's a strong La Nina. So those are the high episode events that really are stronger than what has previously been seen. So we're going to look at Bear River. So we're going to look at the Bear River being the most northern basin in Utah, and then we're going to look at the southwest area of Utah. And what we're looking at right now is essentially the April 1 snowpack for the Bear River going back to 1936 to 2018. Generally, April 1 is the highest snowpack event highest snowpack time of the snowpack season. So we'll look at these events here. So everything that's a snowpack where you got 25 inches or more in the Bear River Basin. And there's a number of events there that are up to 25 or over. And we'll be starting with 1952. So 1952 was a strong El Nino. And so, as you know, El Nino is supposed to be a wet south and a dry north. And yet we had an excellent snowpack. And so this was the opposite. So in these strong events, these high snowpack seasons up in the Bear River, we'd expect a strong La Nina. And this is actually the polar opposite of what you'd think would happen. 1965 is a weak La Nina, so that's an improvement. And 71 is a moderate La Nina. 1982 was no index at all. That means there was not a strong signature one way or the other. It was just flat borderline. 1986 was again no index. And 2011, we nailed that one because it has a strong La Nina. That's what you expect to see. So you expect to see a good snowpack with a strong La Nina signature. So it's really a mixed bag with these indices. Now we look at the weakest events, the worst snowpacks on record in the Bear River Basin. 1977 was a weak El Nino, no index, and a weak El Nino. So it's interesting to see that of the biggest years and the worst years, there were 2 years in both of them that had neither a strong La Nina or an El Nino. So when we enter into a season and there's not a signature whatsoever, it could really go either way. You can get a great year or you get a horrible year. Now when we look at Southwest Utah, we'll start with these 4 events here where it was over 25 inches of precipitation in a snowpack. And so at the Southwest, if you have a strong El Nino, we would expect strong El Ninos to be associated with these big snowpack years. But again, that's not necessarily the case. But there is starts out with a moderate El Nino, which is promising, no index. 2005 is a weak El Nino. So at least the El Ninos that did happen did correlate to a good year down there. And for the record, currently this year, it's a weak El Nino. Now, the South has done fantastic based on that, but most all Utah has done really well in snowpack conditions. When we look at the worst events on record there in the Southwest, we see again a no index. 77 is a weak El Nino. Strong La Nina in 99. That correlates well. No index 2002, 2007, weak El Nino. No index and a weak El Nino. So essentially, when we think about this line shift, north versus south, sometimes this is how I always kind of envisioned it. And a lot of people take the I-70 and they draw a line there. And they say, okay, the south is, and generally this is the case, the south is generally a little bit different snowpack-wise from the north. But when you incorporate the La Nina and El Ninos and their effects, that line becomes much broader. So basically, all of Utah is a transition. So you can wake up October 1st and find out that there's a really strong, powerful El Nino in effect. And if you're in the south, you might be looking forward to a lot of snow, but don't count on that. It could really just go either way. And the reason for that is because geographically where Utah is located. It really is kind of in that transition zone, but that transition zone varies every year, year to year. And that's really a point that I want to get across to everybody from those few slides. So in Utah, the El Nino La Nino is more like a guideline, rather than an actual rule. And of course, you could always just throw a dart and you might do just as well with those events. So we always want to aim high. And as water users, we like to be optimistic. All right, now 2019. This was really a pretty great year, especially compared coming out of such a bad water year last year. We were all very nervous about what the snowpack this year and what it was going to do and how the reservoirs were going to fare. And we've done really well this year. Coincidentally, the Bear and the northeastern Uintas haven't done quite as well, but they are above average, and they'll do pretty well with their reservoir recovery this year as well. And so most all the basins below the Bear are ranging from 130 to 180%. Down in the southwest and southeast basins, those are at 180, which is fantastic. This slide here shows it's a map of Utah with all the forecast points. These forecasts are based off March 1st of this year. So all the green represents forecast that we predict at 100 to up to 150% of average. And then you can see some of those points farther up north towards the Bear. They're a little less rosy, and they're more ranging from 85 to 100%. And when you overlay the hydraulic basins on top, you can see that gradation even better, where you got some heavy greens down low, and then it goes more to a lighter pink up top. And that is also an indication of the lower forecast for the north, especially in the Bear and northeastern Uintas. And so when you overlay the snow tells, and this is a snowpack as of March 1st, there's a lot of green there, but it's a little lighter up north. So the Bear River is really facing a lesser snowpack than what the rest of the Utah has. And in addition to that, they do have a lower than normal soil moisture content, soil moistures in those basins. And we anticipate that those soil moistures will actually potentially make the runoff a little less efficient. So those numbers in the Bear are a little lower than they would normally be if it hadn't been for one, the snowpack, and two, the lower soil moistures in that basin. Okay, so these graphs, I pulled these together, and there are a bunch will precede this one in the same, with the same design. And so down the x-axis we have the Bear River Basin, the Weber Ogden, working on way south and down in southwest Utah. And the y-axis is the snow water equivalent in inches, and this is the amount of precipitation we caught in the snowpack for the month of November, compared to what the average normal for that month would be for November. So the blue is your normal, that's your average, they're your average for the month, and the orange there is the current this year. So November was fantastic. We did really well. We got those huge storms towards the end of November, and that really jacked up our numbers for November. We're ranging from 3 to 4 inches, and basically all the basins got over 100% normal for that month. And when we go into December, and December was a little eye-opening and had everybody a little nervous. The catch we caught for that month, which was much below normal, and we were all getting a little nervous about a high-pressure system parking over Utah and moving those storms up to the north and south of us, kind of a repeat of 2015, or potentially worse. So, and then January came along, and it gave us a sigh of relief, because that bumped us back up. Come January, we're hitting a little bit above normal for across the state of Utah, And we did pretty well. We got a lot of good precipitation, up to 6 inches at Provo. And the south started to catch up a little more too on the lower severe and southwest. And then February came and knocked it out of the park for us. All the basins were above normal, and the south really took off for February. And really across the state, we had storms that just were coming right across through the Sierras, through Nevada, and into Utah. So all of central Utah did really well too. And the Bear benefited from that as well, but not quite as much. It got shut out a little bit, but it's still doing much better than it did last year. And even March, for the first 2 weeks of March, we already exceeded our normal precipitation for that month, and we still have a few weeks to go. Those first 2 weeks of March, we had a number of storms come through, and they pounded the south area, and a lot of those storms came in down from the south and worked their way up, and then we still have some that kind of came across. So it's been a fantastic year so far, and we anticipate that we have Brian McNamara. He today was talking about the storms in the next few weeks. We got one that's coming in over the next couple of days, and he said there's a couple more off the coast that are lined up to come in after that. And so we anticipate that will take us through the end of March at least. So we anticipate an increase in our snowpack at least over the rest of the month. And by April 1, we'll have probably a bigger snowpack, and because of that, we also anticipate that in the depths of the snowpack, we don't anticipate an early meltdown like we experienced last year in the south. Hopefully. I wouldn't rule it out, though. So this is a combination of all the months, November through 2 weeks of March for each of the basins. And so this shows you, we're at 25 inches or more in the Weber and Ogden and the Provo River. They're doing great. The Bear's at 20. And what really I noticed in this graph is the orange there, that's the month of December. And that's the month where we had lower than normal precipitation for that month. And it really pops out in this graph here. And then I broke it down by combining basins. So north has the Bear and then the northeast Uintas and Weber Ogden. The central is the Price and Provo and Tooele and Duchesne, whereas the south is the southernmost basins like the Beaver, the southwest and southeast. And what you see here is that in December, all the basins were under 100% normal. On the y-axis there, that's your monthly percent normal there. And so December stands out because it was bad across the state. And November, actually, the north and central areas of Utah were doing better than the south. But then as we progressed through the snowpack year, the south caught up, and it really took off for the month of March. Okay, these are our time series graphs. And we're going to blow through these quickly. And so our solid black line there is the current snowpack conditions for the Bear River Basin. And Bear River is at currently 117%, so it's above your normal snowpack that we've seen over the 30-year average for this. And this is 2018. 2018, the Bear was the only basin that actually did okay, and that was not that great. The Bear pretty much tracked along 75% of average through most of the year last year. And this year, it's well above. This is 2017. So really, I look at this graph, and it really looks like it's an average between 2017 and 18, because it's now tracking right between those two. And potentially, next few storms will help pump up the Bear, and hopefully the Bear will see some improvement over the next few weeks. So in the Weber Ogden, it's at 130%, so we're getting better just going south a little bit. 2015, again, a horrible year. 2017, this is coming kind of close to 2017 numbers. What's interesting is, if you'll notice, there's a peak in March, it drops down, then we get another peak in April, and then it drops down, and then peak again. And you see that trend on all these 2017 graphs. And it's a lot more, it's really evident going into the south, and you'll see that in the next few graphs. So northeast Uintas at 115% of average. 2018 wasn't horrible there. It got a nice snowpack there at the peak, but it was still below normal. And then 2017, it really it melted out a lot, and then it bumped back up, and then came back down and melted out. So this is the melt out that you see is, well, that's probably largely due to just a warming of the pack for that year. So Tooele, we're at 111% now, but I anticipate that will improve. Tooele had a horrible year last year. It made a record low for a while, and then bumped up a little bit just toward the end of the snowpack. So it wasn't the worst snowpack on record, but it was probably second or third worst. In 2017, it's doing better in 2017 numbers. So you'll see, we'll get to that. Provo River is 144%. It's doing great compared to last year, and it's got numbers that's already exceeded the April 1 for 2017. But it's got a ways to go to hit the 2011. Now, I said this earlier, 2011 was somewhat unusual because it just kept going up. For the whole month of March, it was tracking upward, and then all the way through April. Usually you see a snowpack kind of peak out around April, but in 2011, it just went all the way until May. And our peak was in May, so it was a full month later than what we'd normally expect. That was a phenomenal year. All right, Duchesne River, 2000 is doing fantastic, 144%. It's tracking up to 20 inches of snow water equivalent. And it's got a little ways to go to reach the 2017 numbers. But if our storms keep going for the month of March, it will go higher. Lower Severe is doing fantastic at 154%. 2018 is terrible. It's well above 2017. And this is the event that we see in the south. This time in 2017, the snowpack in the south just started, it decimated. It ripened up early and it melted out, and the south suffered due to the early melt out, and the reservoirs did not do nearly as well as the north for that year. So keep an eye on that, and you'll see that occur. Now, 2011, Lower Severe is approaching 2011 numbers, so it's doing quite well. Sand Pitch was one of those areas last summer that was in extreme drought conditions, and so the Sand Pitch had a nice big red spot on it, as well as the southeast area. And the snowpack has helped tremendously as far as helping those two areas recover from the drought last year. So Sand Pitch is at 151%. 2018 was terrible. It's doing much better in 2017. And you know what? It's on track to kind of catch up to 2011. So if it stays cool and wet, it could potentially gain a lot of snow for the runoff period. Price of San Rafael, 141%. It's horrible in 2018. 2017, it's coming up close to the April 1, and so I expect that to exceed 2017 numbers for April 1, and it might actually beat out 2011 numbers. The Beaver's doing great too at 155%. 2018 was terrible. 2017 was okay, but this year's better. We're not seeing that melt out. We're just seeing it keep gaining. 2011, it might reach 2011 numbers. Upper Severe, 2018, 2017, and 2011. 188% of normal right now. So Upper Severe is doing well. Dirty Devil, that's at 140%. 2018 broke the record in 2018 for worst snowpack there. 2017 is doing better than 17 and is tracking up close to 2011 numbers. Southeast is 179% normal. 2018 is way better in 2017, and it's actually better in 2011. So that's impressive. In Escalante, we're at 139%. 2018, 2017, it's going to be 2017 numbers, and actually already beat 2011. And of course, Southwest. That's where we are right now. It's 180% of normal. So it's a good year down here. 2017, you can really see there where the snowpack at this time in 2017 just dropped off there in the southwest. And this year, it's the exact opposite. It's actually gaining and not dropping. So we're keeping that snowpack, and we're continuing to gain. And 2011, it will likely reach close to or surpass 2011 numbers. But it's got a ways to go to hit the 2005. So 2005 was a really big year down here. That was the last really big one. Okay, so soil moistures. So looking north, we got the northeast Uintas and the Bear River. As you can see, the black line is trending below what the normal moisture would be. And so it's drier up there. So we're keeping an eye on that, and that certainly affects the forecast in those basins. As we work our way south, Weber Ogden is actually a little bit lower too. We're keeping an eye on that. Duchesne's doing a little better. It's close to normal, and I anticipate it'll probably track the normal line there. Lower Sevier and Price areas, Price San Rafael, are at or above normal, so that's good. And southwest and southeastern basins are also tracking pretty close to normal, and so that helps. That will help with the runoff efficiency, and hopefully the forecasts will be higher. So summing up, Bear River's at 117, Uintas at 115%. Remaining basins range from 130 all the way up to 180. March 1 streamflow forecasts in the north, it's 85 to 100% based on a lower snowpack and a drier soil moistures up there. Central to south is more of 100 to 150%. Now, I anticipate the April 1 forecast will be even better than the March 1. We've gained snowpack, we haven't lost the snowpack, and the soil moistures have improved a little bit up north, and they're staying pretty level for the rest of the basins. So again, soil moisture is below normal in the north, normal to the south. Our reservoirs currently are, as of March 1, are 61% compared to 75% last year. And that's obviously not surprising considering how dry and hot the summer was. So we saw heavy use on the reservoirs, and there was that big fear at the start of the year how the snowpack was going to do this year and help the reservoirs recover. But we've got the snow, and it looks like that snow is going to stay on too, and it's not going to come off early. So if that's the case, it was most likely that we will fill most of the reservoirs, and most of the really big reservoirs will add a lot of water to those as well. So things are looking rosy. Oh, I have great hair. I forgot to take that one out.
That's all personal opinion.
That's right. So I'm not going to skip today. I don't know if you saw my talk, but I did a little bit of a skip across there because it's a good snowpack. I recommend that if you're feeling down that you spend some time and go skip down the road or something, because you cannot smile, not smile if you're skipping. When's the last time you skipped? So any questions?
One thing that I used to see in what Randy put together was just a reservoir by reservoir. I enjoyed seeing that.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
No, thank you. I'll incorporate that. Actually, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have that in here. I should have.
I just find that helpful.
Okay. Yeah. I'll remember that and put that in next time. You bet.
Troy, my question was similar. The 62 versus 75 that you show up there, is that excluding the big federal reservoirs like Powell and Flaming Gorge, or are they included in that?
They are not. They are included, are they? Yeah, it's about 42 reservoirs, and it does include those. Yeah. And certainly, yeah, that kind of swaps the percentages there. Right now, I think the Bear and Strawberry Lake, Strawberry Reservoir, they're actually still higher than normal at this time of year because of that huge carryover they got in 2017. So I think they'll recover pretty well. And a lot of these South Ute reservoirs, I was looking at Paiute and Otter Creek and Gunnison, and hopefully Severe Bridge or Yuba reservoirs will have a nice recovery and inflow of water. So I'm very hopeful for that.
31%.
Anything
You,
else?
Tom? Thanks, Troy. We appreciate that.
You bet.
We'll let you keep your bunny suit.
Thank you. And Brian's right. That bunny's kind of creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. Down in my area in the southeast corner of Utah, I was on a cruise ship during their big snowstorm. When I got home, I found out there was one, so I took credit for it.
Want to forget that as soon
Get
as
them out in
possible.
a hurry.
Okay. Appreciate that. So far, so good. We only got one little area that's in a donut hole, we figure, so. Right, Blaine?
Yep.
We're gonna move on to the feasibility reports of our projects that we've got lined up here. First project up is Monroe City. You got, I guess, Devin Magleby, Public Works Director, is he here? Oh, you're hiding over here. Okay, Devin. And Ben, you're going to make the presentation for us.
That's correct.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Ben.
Back in the year 2000, the city of Monroe installed mechanical water meters throughout on the potable water system throughout their city to each connection. Shortly after those meters were installed, shortly after the warranty on those meters expired, the meters began to fail. Here's a picture of one of those old meters. Because they did not last as long as they were expected to, the applicant began replacing those old meters with new electromagnetic type meters. So far, the applicant has replaced 365 of those old meters, and they budget $15,000 a year to replace the old meters as they fail. Unfortunately, at that rate, the old meters are failing faster than they can be replaced. Approximately 585 more meters need to be replaced to finish out the system-wide upgrade. And that will allow them to consistently bill across across all connections throughout the city, among a few other benefits, including expected water conservation. The project is expected to cost approximately $220,000. Staff recommends that the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $187,000, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 3.07% interest over 15 years, with annual payments of approximately $17,000, and that includes reserves. And that is staff's report.
Thank you, Ben. Do you have anything to add to that?
I'm gonna have Devin move over to one of those seats.
Okay. Okay. Board have any questions of the project?
How many total meters were there to begin with?
It said that you replaced three, pardon? Go-
Around 1,000, I'm not sure the exact.
Okay.
There was a question earlier on the warranty. I looked
Yeah.
that up. I believe those, correct me, Devin, if I'm wrong, but the warranty on those electromag meters is about 20 years. Is that right?
It's 10, so,
Okay.
And they begin failing right at the 10?
yeah.
Or were they 1 inch meters, 3/4, or did they vary?
What are those sizes on your connections?
90%, 3/4. A few 1 inch.
So you're looking at about $376 a meter to replace it if you crunch the numbers, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board or anybody? If not, Blaine?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $187,000, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 3.07% interest over 15 years, with annual payments of approximately $17,000, which includes reserves.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to our next project. We have several guests here on that project, and if you can, just move over to the front over here. So, James Harvey, Commissioner. I guess you're probably okay.
Yeah.
We can see you.
You're in the front.
You're on the front right instead of the front left.
Roy Watts, you're probably okay too. Craig Zonger?
That's Carrie Zinger.
Carrie. Well, welcome. So I'm mixed up. Ron Wilson? Kind of made an assumption. You're in bad territory if you're not.
Exactly.
We welcome you. Glad to have you here today. This is the Powder Mountain Sewer, Water and Sewer Improvement District. I think, Ben, you're up on this one too, so.
That's correct. Okay, the Powder Mountain Water and Sewer Improvement District provides water to approximately 140 residential and 60 commercial connections. The district owns one well. It's located at a geographic high point, and as promised, you can here's sort of an angled view of the project area. Right up there, that pin on top where it says Hidden Lake Well. That is sort of the high point. West of there is one pressure zone, and then east of there is going to be another pressure zone. I guess the angle we're looking is sort of northeast. So to the right would be east. There's another well also located there, that geographic high point that was drilled and is currently owned by a developer who is installing a number of he's putting in a development to the east of that high point there. Once that development goes in, ownership of the well and those connections will be handed over to Powder Mountain Water for their management. Third well is currently being drilled. That's the Kobabe well down there on the bottom. And that well is being drilled with funds with the assistance of the Board of Water Resources. Here's an aerial photo showing the westerns. This is more on the western side. So this shows the pressure zone over there. You can see the three green dots. I hope you can see those. They're kind of small. Those are the three booster pump stations that are going to go in as part of this project. Along with the blue dotted line is a pipeline. This pipeline here, it's old, so they're worried about it failing. Also, it's located underneath the ski run that's pretty popular and is used by the Powder Mountain ski area. If that were to fail in the wintertime, it would be extremely difficult to replace that line simply because of the logistics of its location on the ski run and snow. So they would like to move that line over closer to the road, which hopefully will be located in the county right away. The proposed project will give the applicant the capability to provide water from any of its sources to any pressure zone. So they'll be able to exercise the Kobe well by moving water from the western side of the mountain over to the eastern side. That's what those three pump stations will give them the capability to do. It'll decrease the chance of localized water shortages, and it will also allow the applicant to more fully maintain its wells by cycling through the sources. Installing that new pipeline will also prevent the possibility of having to repair during the winter months, like I mentioned previously, and prevent any difficulties with the ski resort. Staff recommends that the board authorize 85% of the project costs. Staff recommends the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $1,068,000, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1.0% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $43,000, including reserves. And this is staff's report.
Do we have anything to add, Roy, or anybody?
Just a few seconds. I just want to tell you how much we appreciate Kyle working with us. He's been great to communicate and everything. So appreciate having a board representative, and Ben's been amazing to work through this project with us. It is critical. It's our second source that we'll need in order for our redundant supply, and also to get the water from the well that is being funded by the board up to the mountain, and make sure that we utilize that resource too.
Appreciate that. I should ask Carrie. I know who's in charge.
She knows it. That's better, yeah. And then, of course, we appreciate our chairman, Commissioner Harvey from Weber County Commissioner, being here with us, and our engineer, and the board members in support of this too.
Any questions from the board?
Well, I have a question. I noticed, and I didn't ask this in an earlier meeting, but the financial feasibility study that was prepared, it shows that the community can afford to pay $88.51 per share, but the cost and everything come out to $89.61. Is that an issue? You know, I mean, there's $1.10 per share difference there. Probably not large enough to be a huge issue.
No, I don't see it being.
Okay. Not up there. And then I also, Ben, could you go back, pull the map back up, the very first one that showed the well? And I think we had the question in an earlier meeting. The county line goes along across the top of the ridge there. And so is that well, that's in Cache County?
No,
Or is that, it's still on this side,
still
in Weber County? Okay.
Yes. The line is definitely right up close.
Okay.
Right on top.
I know years ago there were a few issues relative to water rights issues. Have those been resolved with the drilling of that well?
Yeah, they're still working on the exchange application for the Cache County side, but they had meetings even as recent as this last week. And so the developer's finalizing a lot of that, but everything else is fine.
You don't anticipate any problems with that,
No.
moving forward? Because is that the well that would be transferred to Powder Mountain?
Yeah, the Hidden Lake and also basically the developer well that you see will be transferred to the district in the future.
Okay. Okay.
And then in order to do that, they have water rights, and all the water right issues have to be resolved.
Okay. With that, Mr. Chairman, then I'm prepared to make a motion, or if there's
I've
more
got
questions,
one other
okay?
question.
Excuse me.
I've got actually three little questions. First one is, what's the status of the new well, the Kobachi well? Where are we at on that, the one we funded?
Kobe.
Yeah, so the
Kobe.
well has been drilled, and they actually have gone as far as the swabbing of the well to, and that was all completed, and then the weather chased off the, they call that.
Drilling contractor.
Yeah, the drilling contractor to actually do the pump test on it, but all the evidence so far, it appears that there's more than, the supply that we have there before it's a replacement well, so we're thinking somewhere around 50 gallons a minute minimum.
Okay, another question that I had was, on your easements, it said that you're in the process, you're going to need to procure an easement from Weber County. Where are we at on that?
There's a kind of question.
I don't know where we are. Well, I'll address that real quickly. Mark Miller, engineer with the district. The line drawing that you saw in there showed it going through the trees. We're actually going to locate that along the right-of-way, and that is a county right-of-way, and we've been given preliminary approval from the county to install it there. So that's crucial for us because during the winter time, that's the only part that gets plowed, and otherwise we've just had the same problem we've got right now. So.
Okay, and then my third.
Ben, could you bring that map back up?
Yeah, if you'll notice, the blue line drawing shows it going right through the trees,
Yeah.
but the heavy road there is actually a paved road now, and we would just go along the existing paved road. It's an improved, very nice two-lane paved road now.
And my third question is, what time frame are you looking at doing this project?
We would hope to get on that as soon as we possibly can with the minimum construction season, but I don't know, Mark, do you think
Yep.
get it through this year, or?
Yeah, the design is actually, a lot of the design has already been completed. It's not a technical, the refurbishing of the one booster station was a little bit of a trick, but as far as the new one, it's not too technical, and so we're hoping to get it done this construction season.
So one other question, do you take into account the new connections with the developer, or are you just looking at existing connections in your analysis?
We are considering some of the new ones.
So they're
also to
added
help
into
support.
it.
Yeah, because it would be a redundant supply for them also
Okay.
in the future.
Any other questions or comments from anybody of the board? Okay, Kyle?
With that, I'm prepared to make the motion, and that is, would move that the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $1,068,000, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $43,000, which would include the reserves.
Second?
Motion's been moved and seconded. Questions on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we need to get up north, so.
Sure. Boogie.
Trying to beat the storm, or?
Thank you.
Oh, that made room for Mapleton to be in the hot seat up there. Check it out. I gotta be in front of the camera.
We have Mapleton
Glad you want the
Irrigation.
money.
We have Mike Miner, president of the company.
They've already dealt with me once.
And Lane, is it? Lane, Klein, right? White. Manager, Eric Franson, engineer. Welcome you. Obviously, Marissa's in charge,
Yeah.
as usual.
I'm going to ask my kids about that. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is for the Mapleton Irrigation Company. And we've got a map here showing their service area, and also showing we've got a mouse, right? There it is. So they divert water out of Hobble Creek, which is here, and out of Maple Creek, and they also receive water from Strawberry Water Users Association, have shares in their company. So this project is specifically for the Hobble Creek part of the system. And if you zoom in here, this is the diversion point up the canyon there, and then coming down through here, and you'll see some of the problems going on. You'll notice that no longer is all of this ag lands as it used to be. We've now got residential areas going through here. And this is a little bit of an older system. You can see some of the fun things they get to deal with. There's houses right there. There's a road right there. More houses over here. And as you can see, this is some of the concrete lined, if you can call it that. And then on this one, I circled this because it's kind of hard to see. You've got the ditch up here, and if you zoom in, you can see some of the rock. This is starting to fail in through here. Some undercutting going on. Is that from seepage coming from out of the ditch? So the ditch seeps and then is washing away some of that. If it were a dam, we'd call it piping, which is not good. As you see, again, houses, there's a swing set right there, and you've got the canal right here. And again, these conditions with open canal is losing a lot of water. And so this they serve about 8,000 acres. This particular system is for about 2,300 acres, about the same in shares. And I'm sorry, this is going to be it's about 3 miles of this either earthen canal, concrete lined, and there is some buried part of it in pipe, in box culvert. However, there are some of those areas where at this time it's not at the capacity they need it to be. They will be slip lining for this project. They plan to slip line where they can in some of that buried, but it's not a lot of the project. And so what they're looking in project benefits, they went and did some testing out in the field to see, you know, if we put water in here, what are we getting out on another end? And they're seeing is about 30% losses. Is that correct?
Yeah.
About 30% losses in the seepage. So they are looking at being able to conserve about 1,600 acre feet. It will definitely increase the alignment. Not only does it go past houses, it goes as it comes out of the canyon. It goes along the edge of the hills there. And it's definitely going to reduce maintenance and operation costs significantly for them. And so this is what the request is. They do have a Water Smart grant that has been awarded to them with construction expected this fall. And they're asking the Board of Water Resources to fund 67.2% of the project. It's a funky number, but if you take out the $300,000 grant money, the Water Resources and the company is 85-15. 85%, 15%, like other projects. And so this is the project, and staff recommends that the board authorize 67.2% of the project cost up to $961,350, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 21 years with annual payments of approximately $45,700. And that's staff's report.
Thank you, Marissa. Do you folks have anything to add, or?
Thanks for considering the project.
Board, any questions from the board?
Do you have any feedback from the people, like some of those pictures showed in their backyard, they had a nice little stream going through, now you're gonna have a pipeline?
In that particular backyard, isn't that where we have the pipe buried below it? And then there will still be an open facility.
That's still a flood channel.
A
so
flood
it'll still
channel
be a
coming
lot
out of
of
Maple
water.
Canyon. So our plan is to use the same easement, bury the pipe underneath here, and then have them come back. And we're talking with Utah County and the city, because there's a portion of this, it's not very far.
Should I go to the outlet of it, that part?
Yes,
That it?
from that road.
It's just
up
looking
about
back
300
upstream
feet.
now.
It's an open channel, so if the water comes out of Maple Canyon in the flood season, it runs over through here. So we have to have both in that part to help.
Most people we talk to are real happy about it.
Any other questions? Board? Not, we're ready for a motion, I believe.
Yes, I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chairman. I move that the board authorize 67.2% of the project cost up to $961,350, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 21 years with annual payments of approximately $45,700.
Thanks, Wayne. You have a motion?
Second motion.
Been motioned and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to special reports.
There we go. Sorry, we had some slides from the last board meeting. Mike and Clayne, if you want, I'll come out in a minute here and catch up.
Okay, Spanish Fork South Irrigation. You're gonna stay put, aren't you? Al Hanson, welcome. Brent, Wade? Not here?
I'm Brent.
Oh, okay.
I'm the next
Brent.
item.
Oh,
You're Fremont.
I messed that up.
Eric, he's just gonna stay put. Well, that's good. Take up space. That's good.
A lot of space.
Not as much as your dad.
Very, very pleased.
I remember your dad came down on a project down in San Juan County, and It took a long time for him to get out of that truck. Lots of him to move out. Marissa, this is your project also, I believe?
Yes. Don't let Eric Franson leave without your prediction for Friday's game against Washington, right? Utah State.
That's easy.
Go Aggies.
Good time to be an Aggie right now.
Go Aggies.
Yes, it is.
Do we have other universities in the state right now? I don't know. Sorry. Oh, Utah Valley. All right, here we go. Spanish Fork South Irrigation Company. There we go. All right, I'm not sure what happened there. Sorry. So this is just showing this project actually has already come. There was already a authorization and committal of funds for this project. It's for the irrigation company. It's called the Southfield line. So they are already under agreement for funding, but they have run into some situations where more funding is needed. And we talked about this a little in the briefing meeting. That right there is mini Florida right there at the bottom of the hill. So that was part of what initiated the talking about piping this canal. So almost all of it, I believe, is piped at this point. They're doing some finishing work. And so, as you can see, it's kind of some tight quarters through here. And what's going on, Spanish Fork South works, I'll explain a little bit better than the report did, and thank you for pointing that out earlier. Spanish Fork South works quite a bit with Strawberry Water Users Association, and they jointly are working on this project. So that is one option that applicants do have, is to per se be their own contractor. And so they were working with Strawberry Water Users. Strawberry Water Users has some equipment that they felt that they could use on the project to put in the pipe, and once they got out there and actually started fusing pieces of pipe together, the equipment couldn't handle moving things. And I can attest to the incredible muddiness and depth of mud that is out there on the project, and also very tight quarters. So this is kind of zoomed in, just where they've been working. This is the area where we talked about the briefing meeting. UDOT asked them to go a little bit further up the road, and so they've done that, and they've added another turnout line they've done over here. And as you can see, they are skimming in and out between houses in through here, and this right here is on a hillside. So this is that crossing there that UDOT asked them come to the other side. And over here is where it drops off and goes down to that area. And I had a couple more pictures I wanted to add and didn't get them in, and I apologize for that, but this is some of the work going on. So where'd my guy go? Nope, not working on this one. But if you see in the top right corner there, that is the pipeline alignment that used to be the canal. Oh, I apologize. I don't know what's happened to the PowerPoint here. Oh, it's got the wrong name up on top. I apologize for that. This is Spanish Fork. Is that correct? Does it have the?
Yeah, that looks right. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. So the cost has gone up about $159,000. The needing to get some new equipment out on site to be able to move the pipe adequately. And so they are under contract right now with the board, and they're asking that the board commit an additional $131,150. So staff does recommend that the board commit an additional $131,150 and amend the purchase agreement to state that the board will provide. Yes. Yes.
The slide is wrong. The report states 135,150 is the additional, and it looks like the math is correct.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too, because in here it says 135.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 135 is correct?
Yes, it looks to be.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. We have a few eyes on this, and I definitely missed it. So, but, okay, so staff recommends the board commit an additional $135,000, $135,150, and amend the purchase agreement to state that the board will provide 85% of the project cost, up to $607,750, and the project be purchased at 0% interest over 20 years with annual payments of approximately $30,387. And then I just put a note there that the current payment is set at approximately just over $23,000. Not a staff's report.
You have any other comments on that presentation?
I don't.
Board have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I believe, Wayne, this is yours again.
Yes, I'm prepared to make a motion that the board commit an additional $135,150 to the project and amend the purchase agreement to state the board will provide 85% of the project cost, up to $607,750, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 20 years with annual payments of approximately $30,387.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next
Apologize
request-
for those errors in the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Next request is Fremont Irrigation Company. I believe Brent Waite,
Yes.
you're sitting on the front row. Zions Bank, all right. Front and center. Shalane, I believe this is your little baby here.
Well, yeah, when it comes to finances, I get to talk to you about it. So, Fremont Irrigation Company, the project was actually committed last June. The board committed $8,415,000 of a $12.4 million project that's replacing canal with pipe and installing a hydroelectric plant. But to complete the project, the irrigation company has requested loan funds from Zions Bank. The applicant also received a $2.5 million Water Smart grant for this project. Maybe. There you can see the map of what they're working on, and they are working on it, are far into it already. The applicant's portion is just over $1,400,000, and they have requested that $1,400,000 from Zions Bank. But they don't have any security for that loan because the Board of Water Resources owns everything, according to the purchase agreement that was signed last October. So Zions Bank is requesting that the board consent to a bank mortgage or other security sharing agreement on the new project facilities, including the pipeline and hydroelectric plant, for the term of its loan, which we estimate to be 10 years. Yes. The board will retain sole ownership of all the applicant's water rights that they currently hold, as well as the applicant's other facilities that have been built using board funds. While Zions has yet to finalize the terms of its loan to the applicant, it is estimated it will be repaid at 6% interest over 10 years, and when the bank's loan is repaid, the mortgage will be released and ownership of the project will return solely to the board until your $8.4 million has been returned. So staff recommends that the board vote to allow a mortgage or shared security agreement with Zions Bank as proposed, pending approval of Zions Bank officials. That's staff's report.
So the bottom line is, we trust Zions, Zions trusts us, and we both trust Fremont, right?
Exactly, yeah.
That kind of the
We're kind of feeling our way through, so we've gone past the first step of finding out our client didn't have any collateral. So,
Questions from the board?
Mr.
Well, if
Chair.
we say, if we just give you our word that is that good enough?
Celia?
I'll have to take it back for our.
If only it were that good. What's the current value of all of the assets? So between the water rights and like the actual infrastructure, what's the current value?
Okay, Zions actually did an extensive compilation
Okay.
before they realized Fremont didn't own any.
Okay, so assuming they had it.
Obviously, this project being constructed is worth $12,400,000. They figured out the water rights are approximately $30 million,
Okay.
I think was
Yeah, that's
the value.
the
Yeah.
fair market value and totaling them all up.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that like we stay in a position of being, if something defaults, that we're both covered.
Yeah, we were considering you hold on to the water share as we take a mortgage on basically the improved facilities, which would be the improved value being 12.4 million. So I think you would still have the more valuable thing, us both recognizing that none of us really want to foreclose. But
Yeah.
You own it, but we don't really want to foreclose on it. The real value comes from the assessments. But for us to be able to make it work on a paper review, we have to have something.
So if you had to foreclose on it, you would
Yeah.
come after us?
Well, we wouldn't come out, yeah, we would be taking time. If it's a mortgage, we'd have to go to court. We couldn't do a deed of trust, and then we'd have to convince a judge to do that too. And we don't really ultimately want to go there any more than you do, so.
That's why I said we both trust Fremont.
Yeah, exactly. It's the assessments that are the real value.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Are
has,
there any other questions of the board?
again, we talked about this a little bit in the briefing meeting, but I mean, it seems a little unconventional, but would this be the first time that the board is entering into something like this, or?
No, the board has done this before, and that's why there's the clause in their purchase agreement that says any mortgages or encumbrances have to be approved by written consent of the board.
Okay.
You've done it before, it's just very rare.
I have a question. Do you know what the value of just the power plant itself is?
We don't know, we haven't done a specific appraisal on it, we're just going by the funds that would be go to purchase or to construct it.
You know, it just seems like if you want title to the 12.4 million, to me, it seems like you'd be willing to take a smaller portion of that commitment where you're talking 1.4 million rather than.
Yeah, why do you have to take the 12 title to
I
the
guess
full
that's-
12 whatever when all you're lending is 1.4?
I guess that's my question, yeah.
It's a good question. Part of the deal is we have to make it work on paper. And when we go back to our people, we'd say, we don't really want to own we don't want to foreclose and own a hydropower, or we don't really want to do it on the facilities, on line pipe and the easements. It just works better on a loan to value ratio because we're going to the higher the loan to value ratio, which is just percentage of the loan to the value, it's going to work better for the people who are underwriting the loan.
But it kind of makes us look foolish to allow you to tie up $12 million worth of assets for 1.4.
Understood, and we share in feeling foolish that we're lending 1.4 million on no collateral, so.
But in essence, if we agree, you're landing it on 12.4 million value, which is a pretty substantial cost differences.
Understood.
At least.
I think another point maybe the board should consider is that while the hydropower plant has significant value, the pipeline can run without it, technically.
Yeah.
So there could come a situation where if something happened and all they had was the power plant and they couldn't pay it, they could just say, well, we'll forget it, we'll let it go. So that's why some of the value of this project is the two tied together, the pipeline and the power plant as one project. So.
questions or comments? Blaine, I believe this is your project.
Are we ready for this? Okay, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the board vote to allow a mortgage or shared security agreement with Zions Bank as proposed, pending approval of Zions Bank officials.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
If you don't mind, I have to beat the weather too.
Understand. We have a couple of projects that want to withdraw from the, withdraw a project from the board. First one is a Highline Canal Company. They are combining their project with another entity. And then that's project number RE372. And then we have the OT Hickens Ditch Company that are just not going to do their construction. And that is project RE383. We need a motion to withdraw those projects.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to withdraw Highline Canal Company's application RE 372 and OT Hicken Ditch Company project number RE 383 from further consideration by the board.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Those two projects can be withdrawn from the list. We'll go back to the agenda now, and if I can find it. Right here. I got it. Gonna move to the Lake Powell Pipeline Project report. Joel, are you gonna present that to us?
I would love to, thank you. I'll give you an update on where we're at. We are glad that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is working on the draft EIS. It's been a long time hoping that we could say that. We had the Ready for Environmental Analysis motion that came November of 2017, and some subsequent delays there, but finally they are really ready for environmental analysis and are actually doing that analysis. So they were working on that EIS. We hope to see a draft EIS in the fall of this year that would go out for public comment. And we are continuing to work with the other federal agencies. With the Bureau of Land Management, we're working on a Section 106 agreement that would cover cultural and historic resources and how those would be handled as the project moves along. We've been working with Bureau of Reclamation. They have a somewhat increased role within the Department of the Interior, as they have been designated by the Secretary of the Interior to be the lead agency within DOI. So they have been working to try to coordinate with those other members of the Department of the Interior as they work with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, who is the lead overall for the NEPA. We've been working with the Fish and Wildlife Service on the draft biological assessment. We've also been working with the Army Corps of Engineers, getting any information they might need for the 404 permit for this project. The other coordinating effort, we continue to meet on a regular basis with the Kaibab Band of Paiute Indians, kind of alternating between our place and theirs, and coordinating on project updates, project concerns, and we will continue that process with them. We appreciate their collaboration. We give you an update on the timeline. As I mentioned before, we're hoping for the EIS this fall and the final EIS and sometime in the fall of 2020. Records of decision we would hope would come after that. And following those records of decision, we would plan to proceed with final design, which would be followed by a final financing plan, and then finally could look towards construction with the hope of water delivery beginning in 2028. Update for the board, our expenses on the Stantec with contract are nearing $35 million. And the cost overall for the project, we are still working with the estimate from late 2015 that was 1.1 billion to 1.8 billion. And as I mentioned, once the NEPA process is completed and we move more into final stages of design, we will be fine-tuning that cost estimate and doing value engineering. I will mention one of the items you'll notice on the agenda was a committal of additional funds for our BLM cost recovery agreement. As we work with these federal agencies, many times they ask us to enter a cost recovery agreement to help cover some of their time and resources that they devote to our project out of their normal workload. And under our agreement with the BLM, we are running low on funds, and so I would request at this time that the board commit an additional $500,000 for our BLM cost recovery agreement to keep that work going with the BLM. From time to time, we've had to do that come before the board to request additional funds for both BLM and reclamation. At this time, it's BLM that we are running low on, and that would be my request to the board at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve $500,000 of committal of additional funds as Joel has explained them.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Got it, Joel?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And we march on. We have a planning report from Aaron, Austin, and Rochelle Shilton.
Good afternoon. This is two separate reports, so I'll go first and then Rachel will follow. It's my opportunity just to give a brief update on our open data. I was before the board not too long ago showing off our website, and first and foremost I just want to recognize Lacey Moore, Jesse Pearson, and Adam Clark from my staff that are doing this great work. At previous time that it was shown to you, it only contained the 2015 M&I data. So this update is just to show you a little bit of what's changed, what's happened. So two things have happened. There's been an upgrade to the design, and that's partially due to these new staff members that have some talents in this area of web design, and so now we can also show off that we've added additional data along with that new design. So the 2016 and 2017 numbers for M&I were completed and added, and we were also able to add our land use data. We've completed our 2017 land use statewide data collection, and you can also see in each of these drop downs that we've also developed pages that represent the whole program for each of these. We are in the process of preparing data that covers our water budget program and database. So that will be the next edition. We've also started working on a page that starts to gather together outside data that can serve as a resource for people looking for other water data. And we also plan to work in the near future to develop a video that is sort of a training and demonstration as we had before with the original site. And we're happy with what we've got here. It's a great resource, but we're also definitely open to suggestions. If you get in looking through it and something's not very easy to understand or find, definitely contact us. And like I said, we've got talented people that can do great things with it and change it to be more user-friendly and useful. So, any questions?
And what's the website?
Yes, that's been updated slightly since last time as well. It's easier to find now. So Utah, so it'll direct here what you're seeing on the screen, but water.utah.gov/open data will get you here. So, thanks, Candace. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if that's okay. Who do you see as your users of these data? So I'm a researcher, I'll definitely be using them, but who's like your typical user?
So, it kind of runs the gamut. We've found a need for easier access internally. So
Nice.
there's definitely internal users in the division, researchers, and just the public in general are all people we want to serve. It's built with an emphasis on making it more discoverable, more transparent, easier to use and understand, and it can save us the time commitment of just receiving an email and digging in and responding to a request when the data is there, available, ready to download and access. And just to reiterate from when I explained it before, you can download in multiple formats. You can filter the data and download the data of interest. You can have a wide range of access through the open data format.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Rachel.
So I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I was going to stand there at the back and address you so you could see me, but then I don't have the microphone, so it doesn't get recorded. So I guess from over here. I just have an update on the Regional Water Conservation Goal Report. I'm Rachel Shilton, and I am the manager of the River Basin Planning Section. And we are responding to a recommendation from the legislative audit in 2015 that recommended the division create regional water conservation goals rather than one statewide goal. We contracted with a consultant to prepare those, to do the analysis and propose both regions and goals for those regions. And that is in a draft format right now. It's currently being reviewed by the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, and we are receiving comments from them. We had a stakeholder group that we have had comments from as well, and I can tell you, Board, that no one is happy with it. There are entities that say the goals are too aggressive. There's the other side that says that we're not doing enough, we're not sending a strong enough message about water conservation. There's the one side that says that's way too much money for what you're proposing to have done. The other side says, I don't know how I can accomplish this on the money that you said is involved with this. So I'm pretty sure. That's scary, Paul. Thank you very much. It's. I think we probably have struck a nice balance. And it is based on data rather than just influence. So our consultant took historic data, water conditions within those different regions, and looked at characteristics and what the appetite was to make changes. So that's what the goals are based on. I have strong confidence in what our consultants did. I really don't anticipate that there will be major changes to the report, but it will go out for public comment mid-April. It will be out for public comment for 30 days and close in the middle of May, and we anticipate that that report will be finalized by the end of June. So, any specific questions from the board?
If nobody's happy, we must be down the middle of the road somewhere.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Our consultants are in the business of making their clients happy, and they're not sure who their client is in this regard. And I assured them that it was us. So that's
Very good. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Before we have our executive director's report, we're going to turn some time to Tom.
Thank you.
In a few minutes, whatever you'd like to present.
I'll be as quick as I can, and you can chop me off where you need to.
Yeah, we've run up against some time here, so.
Yep. Okay. Give you some history.
Mr.
You-
Chairman,
Yes.
do you want him to come to the podium so you've got it recorded? Or you need it so that he can, so you can
I
hear?
can walk up there, Eric. Or whatever.
Yeah.
For the record.
State your name.
Tom Butine. I'm with an organization called Conserve Southwest Utah, which is a local group, bit over 2,000 members. We've had a team very interested in water for many years, since 2006, and have been into a lot of the data analysis and details. And we've been commenting on everything that comes out for all that period of time. And there's been a frustration that we hadn't been getting much response back. So 3 years ago or so, we boiled down kind of all of our main issues to 5 main points. And we went and talked to some of the county commissioners and some of the mayors about those points, asked them, are these reasonable questions to be asking? Are they appropriate? And the answer came back yes. And then we asked them, well, do you guys know the answers to these questions? And they didn't. And so they supported, well, let's go see if we can find these answers. And 2 years ago, about now, we came and talked to you guys just to see how you'd recommend going forward. And Eric assigned Josh to be our kind of our conduit into the division, and the water district assigned our buddy Dave back here to be the conduit into the water district. And so we met several times over the past year. We concentrated on one of the questions for that whole period, and we really didn't get to a conclusion on it. We didn't really touch the other questions, although behind the scenes we've been working on one of the others. And I can go through with you the 5 questions real quickly if you have time and want to, and give you a status on each of them. It'll take a minute or 2 per question, maybe, if you'd like to.
Another 10 minutes or so.
Okay, that should do it. Mostly what we want to give to you is our status from our viewpoint, and also see if you have any ideas of if we should try to proceed, and if so, how we should try to do it. Okay, so the first question was, how should the public be involved in the final decision about the Lake Powell pipeline? And I can give you this in writing too. I've got a paper I can just pass on to you. We decided not to work on that one now. That can be talked about downstream. It's okay. The second question was, what is driving the LPP development timing? And we're unclear of what that answer is. We've heard a couple different answers. We decided also it's not important to concentrate on that right now. Third one is, what can Washington County residents afford to pay for their water in the future as we're biting into some of these big water projects? And that one also we decided not to concentrate on yet. Maybe the Executive Water Finance Board will be getting into that. We've talked to them about it some. For sure they're going to get into cost and affordability, but maybe more affordability to the state than affordability to the county residents who are going to pay for it. It's unclear, but we can work that with them. I think they're amenable to it. The fourth and fifth questions are what we've been really focusing on. The fourth one is, how secure is the Lake Powell pipeline's water right? And like I say, we worked on that for about a year, and we never were able to find an analysis of the security of the water right. And so it appears that we don't have a real definitive answer to that. I know there's lots of opinions and kind of colloquial answers to it. It's very secure, we've heard. But when we try to dig into the details about what drives that assessment, we can't get the data out of it. It's complicated. There's lots of bits of data about this, and we've been analyzing it in detail a lot too. But we're stuck on that one. The last one is about developing real meaningful water conservation plans, executable water conservation plans. And we've been poking around on that one in the edges, several different places. The M&I water use study that came out last year was a very good first step. We submitted some comments and questions on it in late June of last year, and we haven't gotten any response back on those yet. There was another communication about the same time where we analyzed water conservation planning processes that were in place in the state and what water districts and municipalities were actually producing in the form of a water conservation plan. We submitted comments back to the DWRE on suggestions for issues with that and suggestions for improvement of it and volunteering to help improve it. We've been since then also working independently, not formally, with our water district and with some of the mayors down here in Washington County on an approach, a new, significantly different approach to water conservation planning, which was in our comments that we gave DWRE last year too, that we hadn't received comments back on. So we've been working with that. It'd be great if we could get the division to work with us on it, so we aren't in conflict about what should be in a water conservation plan, and that so the work we're doing down here kind of as a prototype or an example or a recommendation down here in Washington County would have some legs to it going forward. We really don't know what's going to happen with that work when we get it done. Last tidbit, which Rachel just talked about too, we submitted comments on the goals, the M&I goals, regional goals. We think those setting goals is really important for water conservation planning, so we support that idea a lot. We had a lot of comments on it, and just historically our comments haven't gone anywhere. We just like to have some engagement on our comments and don't know if or how that can happen. That's it. So we're mostly just, and you might not be able to answer us now, you might need to talk about it, how we should proceed on these questions and issues that we have, if we should proceed, just what you think. Might take some deliberation. We're happy to talk to you too in more detail at any time. Okay.
Thank you, Tom. All we can do is take it under advisement and
Yep.
turn it to staff and
Yep.
have them follow up with us, so appreciate that, though.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay. Mr. Director, you want to give us the word?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just very quickly, I want to talk about the major thing that happened yesterday, which was the signing of the drought contingency plan documents for the Colorado River yesterday. Something that has taken the last 6 years to accomplish, something that we thought surely would have been accomplished before then, but of course there's always lots more details than you expect, and so there really was quite a rush towards the end to get that finished. But in the end, the 7 states all voted to sign on. Utah was with some of the other states early on back in November, December, saying that we were ready to sign, and you'll read in the papers that not everybody was happy about it. The Imperial Irrigation District in California has a few things that they've said about it. One of the things that they were very interested in getting through legislation that, you know, we'd be seeking to authorize the drought contingency planning is $200 million to help with the issues that they're having with the Salton Sea and the decline that they're seeing with that. And so they had really wanted to have that in that legislation. We, as the other states, said, you know, we support you, we really do, in getting the Salton Sea issues fixed, and we'd be happy to, you know, write letters to our Congress people, do whatever we need to help you get that money, but let's do it outside of the DCP, just because it's taken so long to get to the point that we were at, and really we were at deadlines that the Commissioner of Reclamation had set, and had we gone beyond those, we would have been, I think, generating all kinds of additional work that really would have been unnecessary and unfruitful. And so it was just a good thing, we believe, that was all signed. So that part of it's behind us. We need to work now on how we will actually develop and implement the programs that are authorized, or will be authorized. We hope will be authorized for the drought contingency plans. That'll take quite a bit. We'll work in conjunction with the Upper Basin states on that, as well as the Lower Basin. Will have their eyes on what we're doing, and we're glad to have that check. They're glad to have our check, I think. But anyway, we will continue to work on those things, and the major things will be, you know, really outlining this demand management program, which would be a voluntary program for water users to cut back their use. Surely it's got to be compensated. I don't know how you'll do it. And then allow that water to go down to Lake Powell to help shore it up. Well, no, we don't want to. We want Lake Mead to stay up. We want the Lower Basin to take care of that. The higher we can keep Lake Mead, the less water gets released from Lake Powell. So anyway, this was a major accomplishment. There's still a lot of hard work that's going to go from there, as well as we've got the negotiation of the interim operating guidelines that are in place right now, that were put in place in 2007, and those have got to be renegotiated by 2026, and so we are already informally having those discussions, but now that this is completed, we'll be able to jump into it more fully. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that is my report.
Lots of work for a little bit of words, huh?
A little bit of paper. Yeah.
Board, do any of you have anything else you'd like to add? Comments? You're all too tired. That being the case, then we'll take a motion to adjourn. Guess it really doesn't need a motion. We'll stand adjourned.
Let's just do it.
If you disagree.